assess, integrate, measure. That's the filter, that's the framework that I use to decide what I'm going to spend time on automating. And it also helps me to figure out which tools I want to invest in.
Welcome to the AI Rollout, the show about what AI actually looks like inside real organizations. We talk to real practitioners about actual AI implementations, what they tried, what works, and what they'd tell you to do differently. I'm Tom Riordan, co-founder of AI enablement firm WordPower.
And my name is Dent, and this show is brought to you by Marketecture. Today's guest is right in the middle of it, Aziza Jaja. Aziza is an e-commerce and AI transformation leader with more than 15 years of experience helping brands accelerate growth through marketing, digital strategy, and operational excellence. She has held executive leadership roles at companies including L'Oreal and Bulletproof, and now serves as head of marketing at Naboso, where she is leading the company's AI enablement and marketing transformation. Aziza is also the co-founder of AI Soul Circle, a community that helps professional women build practical AI skills they can immediately apply in their careers and businesses. She is passionate about helping organizations move beyond AI experimentation and into real implementation, so a perfect guest for this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really great to be with you guys and looking forward to a fun conversation.
Definitely. Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about your responsibilities around AI at Naboso?
Yeah, so I am a little bit over a month in to my role as head of marketing. You know, you spoke about my background, a lot of it being in e-commerce and marketing. And within the past, I would say year, I've been leaning into AI heavily, right? So went through the process of just getting certified as an AI consultant. I see, a lot of things evolving in the AI space. And my focus is really inside Naboso. It's a very small company, very lean team, and is figuring out how can we integrate AI in a way that creates real leverage, right? And when we talk about leverage, it's, for the level of input, it's exponential output in terms of value, whether it's savings, incremental revenue, time saved. So I'm really focused on how do we do that while running the business, right? And, keeping up with all these changes in AI every week, it's something new. 2 weeks ago, it was ChatGPT work, right? So it's really diving into that and seeing how we can use AI as an execution partner inside our company. So can't say I've figured it all out. It's very, very messy. A lot of things we're trialing, but I'm really excited about, the possibilities and what we could potentially achieve with AI.
That's great. And when you say small organization at Naboso, what size are we talking for our audience?
Less than 20 full-time employees.
Okay. So is the AI rollout a bit of a committee effort? You mentioned you have a big role in it. Or kind of what's the workforce look like?
Yeah, and I've kind of assumed that role, right? Because I am so passionate about AI, and I just see, the possibilities when it's integrated thoughtfully. How it can genuinely amplify like bandwidth capacity of teams. So I've taken on that responsibility of ensuring that we're thinking AI first, right? As we're looking into executing our strategy, instead of thinking, okay, in the past, we've done things very manually, right? Across the board, just in e-commerce. But, now thinking, okay, what tools do we have? How can we use AI to maybe do this smarter, for us to work smarter, move faster, be more efficient, be more productive? So I've taken on the responsibility of, building workflows using AI as the partner to do that. So
I was going to say, so that is on top of your day job as well as within marketing.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, yes. And, no, because, for a number of months, I was working in the capacity of a consultant, but, jumping back into an organization, taking on the operator role, having to run the business, right? Get things done while experimenting with AI, building workflows one by one with AI. It requires a lot of intentionality, right? Because it's very easy to fall back into the traditional ways of working. So I'm finding that I have to carve out time to continue to upskill in AI, right? Because the learning never ends, right? When it comes to AI. So carving out time to make sure that I'm constantly upskilling and then putting a filter on what I'm learning to see, okay, what can I really integrate into what I'm doing today? Not just me, but the team, what we're doing today that allows us to move faster and more efficiently. So it's a balancing act. I know a lot of operators are struggling with this, right? Just upskilling with AI, but keeping the business running at the same time.
And how do you do that? How do you keep up to date with AI?
How do I keep up to date with AI? That's a really good question. So I'm plugged into a number of AI communities, right? So I'm plugged into two, large communities where I am getting updates weekly on what's the latest in AI. What does it mean for you if you're an operator? What does it mean for you if you're a consultant? What does it mean for you if you're a trainer? So that's been really, really helpful because it allows me to really get that information very quickly, identify, okay, what do I want to test? What do I want to put on the back burner because it's going to require a little bit more effort and, I probably don't have the capacity at the time. So it's really those communities that I'm plugged into that have been really pivotal for me to ensure that I'm keeping up to date with all things AI. But then I'm also, in the process of building a community locally. So I'm actually based in South Florida, and we found kind of a demand for local AI workshops, right? So I recently founded AI Soul Circle with a few other ladies that are in the AI space where we support women who are in corporate or women who are building businesses to integrate AI in practical ways. And, we keep them up to date on all things new in AI, what they ought to maybe pay a little bit more attention to because it's going to be pivotal in how they work. So that has been a really fun project for me. It's been very fulfilling just to see the response from the women, just having that space to gather judgment free where we're being very transparent with what we're learning, what we know. We're also being very transparent with, mistakes we're making, missteps we're making, with AI. So it's a project that's near and dear to my heart. It's more than a project, right? But I'm really passionate about really sharing with others what I'm learning so that our thing is no woman gets left behind. So right now it's just for the ladies, but we're, thinking about broadening it eventually to include men as well. But yeah.
That sounds fantastic. That's amazing. Yeah, there's definitely something we see within our client organizations as well. There's so much learning to be done, so much sharing. And a lot of that is about, mistakes people made. I tried to use AI to do this. It was terrible. It went really wrong. If people share those experiences within a community or a team, everyone kind of is up-leveled by that. So it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's important because you really have three jobs, Aziza. You have your digital marketing mandate, right? You're also helping with the rollout, but then you mentioned you need to continue educating yourself, which is in itself its own task, right? So there's kind of a lot that you need to juggle. You mentioned kind of briefly an AI consulting certification. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. So this is something I pursued last year. So I'm actually one of their ambassadors as well. It's a program called Stack that I joined, and it basically takes you through an 8-week program. It's self-paced, right? Where you start from the fundamentals of AI all the way through to, building your own apps, creating these extravagant flows, in that program, you get to choose a track. Do you want to build, or do you want to be a trainer, or do you want to be a strategist? For me, I don't see myself so much as a builder, but I find myself doing that a lot more now, right, in my operator role. But the track that I gravitated more towards was like the training and the strategy side of things. So I did that certification last year. And then I also joined a community called AI Innovation, right? So it's led by, they call her the Queen of AI, Alicia Little. And, I joined that community because I needed a bigger community that I could plug into. That's where I met the ladies that I eventually started AI Soul Circle with. So that's been a really interesting journey. Last year, I felt like I needed to upskill, even though I had been using ChatGPT since 2023. I remember doing a training for the company I was working with at the time on AI, right? So I've been using it since then. But last year, I felt like I needed to level up further, right? To really deepen my understanding of all these tools and their capabilities so that, if I were partnering with an AI agency or, like I would know what the right questions to ask, So I felt like I wasn't fully equipped last year. I'm like, okay, let me go through a certification program to ensure that I really understand the fundamental pieces so that I know things are going to change constantly, but I know what to look out for as these changes are happening. I know how to select my tools and all of that. So yeah, it's been a journey.
That's great. I mean, that plus Soul Circle seem like two major communities between the certification program and Soul
Correct.
Circle. Thinking about going back to our topic of AI rollouts across the org, what do you think is kind of to be expected in a given organization? Is everybody going to have time to join these extracurricular type communities and get support? Do you think like a few people doubling down on these? Because the problem we face all the time is just kind of imbalanced AI expertise. And much like you're sharing here, you went out and got it. It wasn't like somebody gave it to you one day. Like you made a plan to get that expertise, you executed it, and now you're in a position where you're helping others. Is that like what everybody should aspire to do, or what do you think about that?
So to be honest, I think everybody needs to be plugged into at least one community, right? So be very selective on who you choose to follow, whether it's on LinkedIn or, wherever on YouTube, but find a community that you can learn from, you can test things with. It helps to circumvent a lot of, missteps. It saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of wasted money. So I honestly think everyone in this season that we're in has to be plugged into at least one community that's keeping them up to speed on all the changes in AI. And then, obviously you have your, full-time role. It's really just dedicating time. So whether it's an hour a day, or maybe choosing one workflow each week that you're wanting to say, okay, to what extent can I automate this? And really being thoughtful about what you're investing that time into automating. They always say, a lot of things can be automated with AI, but everything shouldn't be automated with AI, right? So it's really figuring out what is that flow. I use a framework that I had developed earlier this year called AIM, Assess, Integrate, Measure. I assess, okay, where are my biggest constraints? Where are my biggest bottlenecks? And if I solve this thing, it's going to have exponential impact on the business or on my time in the future. So that's how I decide, what workflow to solve now with AI. So assess is the first step, and then integrate, right? So which tool should I consider to integrate in order to build out this workflow? And then once I integrate, then measuring, right? Measuring, okay, what's the result of this workflow that I just created, is it genuinely saving me time? Is it genuinely generating incremental revenue? And being very honest about that, and then just, circling back again. So assess, integrate, measure. That's the filter. That's the framework that I use to decide what I'm going to spend time on automating. And it also helps me to figure out which tools I want to invest in, right? So I'll give you a concrete example. So I'm not yet 2 months into my role yet at Naboso, but one of the things I did very quickly coming in was just an audit to understand, what's happening with the business. I oversee the direct-to-consumer channel as well. So really understanding, okay, where are there revenue opportunities, where there are quick wins. So that audit is that assessment, right? From doing the assessment, a couple of things that were clear, we have, for example, a lot of content, right? So the company has been fantastic at creating long form content over the years, but it's now figuring out how to repurpose this long form content and feed our ad library. So what we're finding is that our ad library is starved for assets. As nowadays you have to run a number of ads, right? Because there's so much noise, there's so much competition. Meta, for example. So, one of the things I'm looking to solve is how do you convert all this long form content into like meaningful ads with hooks and all of that. So that's something I'm actively working on solving with combination of AI and agency. That's one big thing, right?
And so are you building something to solve that challenge?
Yes. So, I've been testing out, I've been working a lot inside ChatGPT, Claude a few months ago was my go-to, but ChatGPT work, which I think it launched maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, has been a fantastic execution partner. So I've been testing a few ad generation skills through that platform. It's really, really good at creating static ads, but I haven't figured out just yet how to solve for the long form content that we may have on YouTube, or we have hundreds of reels that we've created in the past. Some of them are 2 minutes. How do you cut that down into a 15-second or a 30-second ad? I haven't been able to solve for that just yet with ChatGPT work. So I'm looking into some other solutions. But it's finding solutions out there that can really generate the content volume that we need while partnering with our agencies. So it's combination of AI and human work that we're looking at. But it's tricky and it's messy and it's not clear cut. There are a lot of solutions out there. A lot of them, they overpromise and underdeliver. So it's trying to filter through all the noise. My whole philosophy is, just keep learning, right? Fall in love with the process of learning. That's the mindset we're going to need to have as we navigate this whole AI space.
We definitely come across that decision quite a lot about whether we should, or our clients should buy a specific SaaS platform that has all these AI capabilities, or whether actually they've already got ChatGPT and that can get them 95% of the way there. And actually, maybe they should just start using the tool they have, finding out what is working, find out what the gaps are before kind of exploring the market. Is that how you see it as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. Right now, my tech stack is very, very simple, right? So I am using, as I mentioned, ChatGPT work, right? So I'm doing a lot of testing there, and I've been able to create some really cool things within a very short period of time through ChatGPT work. I also have Claude, right? So I use that I've been scaling back on that since I've been leaning into ChatGPT work a lot more because it can now, generate a lot of on-brand PDFs and presentations, which is what I was using Claude for quite a bit. and it generates some beautiful ad creatives, just graphics. It's really, really strong. I've also used ChatGPT work to develop, a quick landing page for a summit that we have coming up. I literally built the page in a day, which is something I could never fathom a year ago. So ChatGPT work, Claude. I use Whisperflow a lot. So it's been a great tool for just dictating versus typing. I find that I save a lot of time with that tool. And then I use Notion and Google Drive. That's it. Very, very simple. Very simple. And I'm just, exhausting, the potential through those tools. And then, wherever I get stuck, it's now looking at, okay, what other tools should I be considering? So, like in the case of Try Hollow, I'm getting stuck with repurposing long form content, right, through GPT work. So, exploring other tools.
Yeah, we often say that the ChatGPT and Claude are like Swiss Army knives. They can achieve so many different tasks from one interface.
Absolutely, yeah.
Aziza, are your coworkers on the same platforms as you? Are you sharing projects with them directly, or are folks kind of getting their own tools?
So we all are on GPT Enterprise, ChatGPT Enterprise.
I was really curious with the landing page, whether anything that you found that AI couldn't do, or are there any challenges that you met along the way?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So it messed up with some of the information on the landing page, right? So there's a landing page that existed, and, I had it kind of scrape the information from the landing page and then built out this new page outline so that it's CRO optimized, right? So it's speaking to the audience that's going to be joining the session. It's speaking to problem solution and how this could really deliver value to them by attending the summit. But it got some of the scheduling information wrong. To a human, it was kind of interesting how it got it wrong, but what I realized was because of how the original page was laid out, like the scheduling wasn't in the right order. So the AI was reading exactly that. And anyways, it made some errors on, just the information. So I had maybe 2 or 3 iterations of the landing page in order to get it right. But now we have a more optimized page. We've been getting a lot more registrations since launching the new page. And again, this was something a developer probably would have required 3 weeks to build. And this is something we're able to do effectively in a day, 2 days.
That's fantastic. Really, really awesome use case. So you talked about creative production as a use case. You talked about spinning up landing pages as a use case. Any other wins that you've seen in terms of how you're using the tool that you think would be worth sharing with our audience?
Like one of the things I'm really focused on is just building out a customer journey that feels intentional, that feels meaningful, that's really adding value for our customers. So I'm working through that process now. So I did an audit of just our welcome flows or post-purchase flows, cart abandonment flows. So I basically connected GPT work to Klaviyo to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of just the data gathering and the analysis. Now I'm reviewing all of that to see, okay, what kind of experience do I want to build moving forward, considering where we want to go as a brand. But I'm still in the midst of that, right? I don't have it solved yet, but what has been fantastic is AI has allowed me to go through the auditing process way faster than I have in the past. So that's one thing that I'm actively working on. I'm also using AI to analyze gaps in the team, right? Resource gaps. So we have a goal in terms of where we want to go as an organization. We're a very lean team. Where are there gaps? Where do we need more human support? And I started to do a very basic analysis using AI, to figure out what's the potential revenue upside by adding this specific role to the team, right? So I ran this earlier in the week and the output was not good, right? Because it was user error. I didn't provide enough context for it to make a solid determination on real revenue upside. So the thing with AI, it's so important to train the model. It's so important to provide ample context. They suggest spending the majority of the time planning, providing information, making sure the data that the model is using is accurate. You're building on the right foundation. So most of the time should really be spent on that. But I'm a very impatient person. I'm working on it, but I'm really, what I did yesterday is, okay, I need to come up with this answer quickly, right? How can I get some information from AI? I'm like, okay, you're connected to Klaviyo, you're connected to Shopify, you're connected to our data platform. So you should have all the information you need, right? Okay, now tell me what the revenue upside would be from adding this additional role, but I didn't give it the right context. So I'm working on that.
So one final question from me is, if there's someone in your seat, they have a smallish team, they're wearing multiple hats, they're trying to roll out AI, what's one thing that they should do this week to help with that?
So I think I would go back to the framework that I mentioned before: assess, integrate, measure, assess where your biggest bottlenecks are, where your biggest constraints are, but build some assumptions around solving those big bottlenecks or constraints. Like, do you think you'll see meaningful revenue upside or time saved by solving for this specific constraint? And then just choosing one, going all in, and, work with AI to solve it. And don't assume that you're going to get it right on the first try, right? What I've found is that working with AI sometimes requires multiple iterations, right? Something you think might be an easy solve, sometimes it requires a couple hours because you're really wanting to stress test the output to make sure that it is accurate. So I would say just go through the framework: assess, integrate, measure, choose one constraint, select a tool, and try to solve that one constraint, and then move on to the next thing. Don't try to tackle everything all at once, because then it can feel extremely overwhelming.
That's great. And the measure piece almost seems like the hardest part. Are you looking for time savings in the AIM framework? The third letter seems like the thorny one. You typically looking for time savings, or how can we kind of tell when these things are working?
Time saved, incremental revenue, right? So for example, with the landing page that I created, now I'm looking at, are we getting more registrations than we were with the old landing page? So that's something we're measuring to see, okay, is this a skill that we should then use to spin up other landing pages to support our CRO roadmap, for example, right? Because we know we need to be testing faster, different types of landing pages as we're scaling what we're doing on ads. Now that we've been able to create this landing page quickly, we can effectively create pages to support our CRO efforts. So yes, I'm measuring, this recent landing page to make sure that it's actually generating the results that we expected, and then rolling it out to other initiatives.
Wonderful. I love it. That's it's a great framework as well. I really like it.
Yeah. And it's simple on purpose, right? Like when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that's how you should do it. But when you think about it with that filter constantly, assess, integrate, measure, you're always thinking, okay, what stage am I at with this? Okay, assess, or now I need to integrate, now I need to measure. And it really keeps you focused on, the big picture and the long-term goal.
Wonderful. Super. And before we go, where can people find you? And if they're in the south of Florida, where can they find the AI Soul Circle?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Aziza Jaja, so feel free to connect with me there. I'm always looking to learn about what other operators are doing in this space. I try to share as much as possible on my page. When I came into this role, I said I wanted to build in public. It hasn't really gone according to plan because I'm in the thick of things. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. And then for AI Soul Circle, if you happen to be in South Florida, great community to be a part of is aisoulcircle.com.
Great. Well, Aziza, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back here next month with another story from inside a real AI rollout. Every episode here lives at Marketecture TV and wherever you get your podcasts. So thanks for listening and see you on the next one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much.